I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, degenerate sleuths of the night. We gather to boldly go where others have refused. Welcome to the DT show, you salty mofos.
A man accused of killing 4 college students is behind bars, and he has ties to northeastern and central Pennsylvania. State police say 28-year-old Brian Koberger was arrested this morning at a home in Chestnut Hill Township.
I can't find any case law that would support that idea. That somehow a warrant would be needed for DNA left at a crime scene.
We are expecting to learn more about the allegations against the girlfriend of a Boston police officer who was found unresponsive in the snow Saturday morning. I-Team sources say Karen Reed was in a relationship with John O'Keefe. She's facing charges including motor vehicle homicide and manslaughter.
So, the Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern. The implications of that information may have profound effects on this defense and defense counsel.
So, get your popcorn ready and your choice of drink. Get your butt on your seat. Like, comment, and subscribe for a treat. Here we go. It's time for the show. The Drunk Turkey Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT show. I'm Daniel. Got a explosive night for you guys. Well, in my opinion, I think so. We got a couple of great guests that are going to be joining us. We're going to have a conversation about the Jack and Lilly Sullivan disappearance. And, I got some information, quite a bit of information about a lot of different things. And I also want to kind of break down what we're going to be doing the rest of the week. So tomorrow we were going to have the K9 team. Fortunately, the K9 team is, unfortunately, they're working on missing persons. And so they're handling business out there. So they're not going to be able to make it tomorrow. However, I did get in touch with Nick from Please Bring Me Home. And he's going to be joining the channel on Wednesday at about 4 p.m. Central. And so if you're in the Eastern time, that's 5 p.m. Nova Scotia time, be about 6 p.m. on Wednesday. And strictly all we're going to talk about is the search efforts, what they looked at, what the terrain was like, and some of the advantages and disadvantages that were possibly present on the day of the disappearance when ground and rescue search teams were dispatched out there to the Gairloch Road in reference to missing little kids. And so we're going to have him on Wednesday. I also have another searcher who was out there. He sent me a couple of pictures from the pipeline and some of the search, and we'll look at some of those pictures tonight. He may come out on the show a little bit later on this week as well. And then and I do want to say that those two men are different from the information I'm going to be talking about today. So I did speak with a third person that was in the search that was more assisting the search with Cindy and her group of people. And I got some information that was said that we'll be discussing tonight. And so with that being said, let's bring everybody up. We have Dr. Jamie Vona. Dr. Vona, how's it going? Oh, you're muted.
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing well. It's Saturday. It's my vacation, so I have a few days off, so I'm excited.
Oh, that's cool.
And so welcome. Thank you for joining us again. And we also have Daphne from Daphne's Case Files. What's going on? How's it going?
Good. How are you doing? Thank you for having me. Good to see you, Dr. B.
Good to see you too, Daph.
Doing well, doing well. Welcome. It's the first time we've had you on the channel. If you'd like to kind of, introduce yourself to the other two channels, if you haven't, to the new audience who haven't seen you.
Hi, everybody. If you don't know my channel, I do missing children's cases and currently have been following Jack and Lilly since day one. I also do all sorts of cases. Sebastian Rogers. I'm sure you've heard of missing teen Sebastian Rogers, Summer Wells. We do a lot of different kinds of cases, kind of like DT and Dr. B.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Go check her out. I believe I put all the links in the description. If not, I'll put them in. And mods, if you don't mind, on my channel, put the links in their description. Put the links in the live chat so those that are watching can follow.
Same here with my mods.
And so let's start off first with the where do you guys want to start off? You want to start off with the blue blanket thing that's gone around?
Yes.
All right. So I was talking to some folks. Now, well, let me backtrack. So a few weeks ago or months ago, when the article that came out where the RCMP disputed what Bradley Wong and Justin Smith said, basically saying that they went through the surveillance tapes and what they were saying wasn't true. Now, I don't necessarily mean or think that means that Bradley Wong and Justin Smith were lying. I just think that they could have been inaccurate. Maybe they did see something. It just maybe wasn't that day. Either way, when that dispute came out, I talked about it, and Mr. Wong I think he was actually in the live chat. And I mentioned something to the effect that there's only a few people that are friends with him. And one of those persons was John Henry Wilson, I believe is his name. Now, why this is important is John Henry Wilson is a friend of Bradley Wong's. John Henry Wilson's sister is married to the bus driver, which is, from what I understand, where the items were found. And so if I had to take a guess, if I had to take a major guess, I wouldn't be surprised if this was just used as some sort of protection of an item. Let's just say he picked up something from Brad, used it to protect his seats. Maybe it was a car part. I think Brad Wong works on cars, and it somehow ended up at his sister's house. I don't think it was planted. A lot of people were looking for a connection. Your connection between the house and Bradley Wong is one of his friends, and that happens to be the sister of, which is his sister, which happens to be the spouse of the bus driver. And so I don't think somebody's going out there planting things. I don't think anybody's going out there trying to make something appear to be something it's not. I think that there's probably some sort of reasonable explanation between Bradley Wong and the property, whether it be because I think there was also another mat that Brad said that it didn't belong to him, and that mat did appear to have some sort of substance. That substance looked to me like it was oil. And so, if he's working on his car and that's what he claims he was doing the night that he saw Daniel and driving back and forth and things like that, if he got a part or anything like that, I can see how it can lead from one place to another without it having to be some big conspiracy. And so could it have been planted for some nefarious reason? I guess. I don't think so. I think it was just somehow made it there. And I think for those that were wanting a connection, there's a connection. What do you guys think?
You go ahead first if you want.
Go ahead, Daphne. Go ahead. You know this case way better than I do.
I just think it's ironic that Belinda just came and found it, right? And it was the way it was wrapped was just really odd to me. Now I can see your point. I can totally see that. It was just weird, because the blanket looked like it had been washed. It was really clean. She said it had frost on it, but it was really clean. Same with the shirt. but the blanket was like really clean. She said, yes, there is some kind of like substance or whatnot on the mat. Could be what, like, we don't know. I just thought it like, which is really weird. I always say that word. I try not to say that word so much, but it's just odd to me how it was like just sitting there for her to find it. Yeah, it could be an act, just something that happened. But the blanket to be out in the elements and be so clean, I don't know. I think it's something to think of, right?
What do you think?
I'm a little bit newer on this case. I think that my whole thing is because I don't really know. So what I would use is what I know from past relevant behavior. And usually for me, I feel like it's usually the thing. It's not usually something that is like planned out type thing usually, but does that mean that it's not here? No. So I don't know that I have, or that we have enough information to really know either way. Like, is there anything in the police documents that helps us make this decision?
RCMP said it was irrelevant.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's why I'm saying it. RCMP said it was irrelevant. There was I think an article that came out and spoke about the items that were found, and in that they had reached out and RCMP said they were irrelevant. And so if you have an irrelevant item and you're looking for a connection on how it ends up over there, this guy's buddy's sister is married, that's his buddy's sister's property. And so I think there's a good possibility that that's one easy way that it got there. Now, I know some people are saying that I'm misstating facts. I'm not. Nova Scotia RCMP, this is the word that's used, disputes witness accounts in the missing children's case. In fact, they emailed them and they explained to them a few things. They said that in an email Tuesday, which I found interesting, because if something that is stated to be true, law enforcement usually comes out and says, we cannot confirm or deny that information.
Mm-hmm.
When do they come out and say something's disputed so quickly? It's probably because they got evidence that's not an actual thing. And so a lot of people that think that because these two witnesses said they saw something that night, doesn't mean that that's what happened. Now, does it mean that they're lying? Not necessarily. They didn't speak to law enforcement for a while later. And so I think there's a good possibility that maybe they confused the nights. Maybe they did see something, it just wasn't that night. And maybe it'd be the night before or the night after, and it stuck with them. I would reckon probably the night after, for you to be hypersensitive to time, vehicle moving, and things like that. You would think that would happen after, because you're aware of two kids missing. And so, the night before, when nobody's aware of anything, to remember things in such great detail, it's a little iffy for me. But, here's what the email said, and this is from the RCMP. Police said, not anybody, but police said, found no evidence of any vehicle at that time. No such driver has been identified, and the presence of a vehicle has not been substantiated as a key element in the investigation. And so they went back and they actually did surveillance, and they looked through surveillance that they have. Let's see. It says, hold on. So they went back here and they said that they had looked through the surveillance and that there was no presence of a vehicle. Well, anyway, I have it somewhere here. And what that means is, because Brad said that he saw a vehicle with the lights on. Now, there's some cameras nearby on either side. And so for Daniel to have left this place, these cameras may not have captured something during the day, but at night, they may be able to capture the light shining in the distance. And so, like I said, I've never seen a law enforcement agency run out and tried to dispute something that they weren't sure of. That doesn't make any sense. Very rarely do they go out there and say anything, especially if it's just rumor or if it's just if it's unknown. If law enforcement truly did not know, why are they coming out emailing the news media to dispute it? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But some folks seem to think that I complete information. And clearly I'm not. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, first of all, I don't know who would say that, but if anybody,
Oh, it was in the live chat.
Okay, if anybody's being disrespectful in my chat, mods, please delete them. 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't-
nobody be rude.
Yes, to Daphne or Daniel or me for that matter. This is the thing. There's so many other live chats that people could join if they don't want to be respectful in this one. So that's just how I feel. So I feel like we're all adults. Let's just people could have different opinions. I think that it's healthy to have a difference of opinion, because I think differences of opinion are where we challenge each other. And there's times, Daniel, I'll say to you, and then you'll come back with me with like evidence. And I'm like, oh, okay, like that's good enough for me. So I think it's important to have that, but there's a way to do that without being disrespectful.
Correct. Now,
Absolutely.
And like I said, this isn't me saying that they're disputing Bradley Wong's story. This is the RCMP emailing the media immediately after they put out a segment saying that they heard or saw Daniel driving around that night. So for those that want to get mad at me about it, I'm just reading you the article. I'm just informing you of what law enforcement did. It's not me.
No, I know what, yeah, no, I understand that you're just reading the article. But do you think there's something, they literally came out a few weeks later and grabbed camera surveillance from over there in Glengarry Station area? Why would they do that for? What would have ticked them off to do something like that? Like there's nothing.
Do we have
really
something that says that? Do we have something that says that that actually happened?
Yeah.
Like, is there documents?
Yeah. Look up Melissa Scott. They came out the end of May and they wanted everyone's in that area over off of White.
Right. But this article came out in October. So like, or it was updated in October. So this is well after that. So even if they went and they took video, that's probably how they were able to come to the determination that the vehicle didn't pass by with what you're saying. If what you're saying is true, that they went and got surveillance, well, they had the statement. So there's the accusation, and then there's the investigation, and then there's the result. So the accusation was that Daniel was driving. The investigation aspect was that they go out there and they get the cameras and they look. The result is that
they didn't see anything. Yeah.
It wasn't there. And so this coming out much later, tells me that, for one, I'm not saying that Mr. Wong is lying. What I'm saying is I'm fairly positive he's inaccurate at the very least. And, people get things wrong, and it's okay. It doesn't mean that he's trying to do something nefarious. It doesn't mean that he's trying to deflect the investigation one way or the other. People get things wrong. People are human. People make mistakes. And so, if he, a short time around that time really truly hurt a vehicle, drive around that night and the kids go missing and he's got some time to think about it, the mind can play some tricky things. You can try to put those two things together, and it may have been two different nights. But because it was, I think, a week, since the time that the kids went missing to the time that he spoke with law enforcement.
They came out 8 days and talked to him. He said it took 8 days for them to come out and talk to him.
Right. So during that time, Dr. Vona, how much information or how much can your memory change within an 8-day period?
Well, that's a good question. So our memories are only wired to remember 5 to 7 items at one time, which is why we chunk things like our social security number, because it's easier to remember 3 numbers, 2 numbers, 4 numbers rather than a bunch of numbers. So with that being said, that's just with that. I also know that when I teach in my class, I teach that eyewitness testimony. So, and that's somebody that sees something, and it doesn't mean that the person's lying, but they do brain games all the time where they make it to where there's actors and they'll tell the actors to say like, no, it was a blue shirt, even though they said it was red. And what they found is that if somebody is convincing enough or is confident enough in their description, that they could actually change the minds of other people. So I always take those things into consideration. So yes, your mind can absolutely be faulty after seeing something and then reporting it to the police like right away, let alone a week later. So I agree that things could get mixed up. That is absolutely possible.
Right. And
No, I don't disagree with that. But he wrote down, I mean, not for me, but for Sonny, he wrote down like where they heard vehicles. So I'm not.
And he was sure it was that night. Like, I'm literally trying to be in the fact finding phase. Like
I'm just saying what's like I saw on Sonny's that he wrote down like certain time frames and where the vehicle went, like on a map.
I mean, the end of the day, you said that Daniel's vehicle's lights were on and they had surveillance, and for them to come out and dispute it as quickly as they did.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes to me. That speaks volumes. Because if it was something that was unknown or a rumor or if it was just unfounded, I think at the very most, and I highly doubt they even say anything, they just come out and say, we can't confirm or deny that, if anything. But to come out and dispute it immediately and say, we've got surveillance, we looked through it, we couldn't find any evidence of a vehicle or anything of that in that nature at that time. To me, it just kind of seems like
nothing.
It's nothing there. And then at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, people make mistakes. And just because he may have been inaccurate doesn't mean that he was trying to do something inappropriate, or he was trying to mislead the investigation, or he was trying to do anything, negative, or have some sort of nefarious meaning behind it. But it just also doesn't mean just because he went in there with good intentions that he's improbable of being wrong about the night that it happened. And with Justin Smith, it took him even longer. And I would even venture to say that when you look at the statements in the documents, Bradley Wong doesn't bring up Daniel to the RCMP 8 days later. He brings it up to Justin Smith a few days after that. And then that's when Justin Smith tells that to the RCMP. So if, is his thought process changing as the week goes on, as he talks to them? And then after he talks to them, then he remembers more, but he's just not accurate on the date. I just think that's more than likely what's there.
I don't feel like, I don't know. Like I'm not in his head. I just feel like, why would someone just step out of their comfort zone and like try to have someone point fingers on them when they're not the ones who lost 2 children? You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be mean, but
who's pointing fingers at him?
I don't know. I feel like now, because he went and spoke, or the other neighbor went and spoke, now I feel like all their information is out now. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but I mean that has nothing
for people.
To me. I mean, them speak. I understand where you're going there, but because what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that they did anything with ill intent. What I'm saying is, I think they were just inaccurate about the day that it occurred. Because at the end of the day,
I think what you guys are saying is the same thing. It's just what Daniel's saying is that how do we not know that exactly what he's saying still happened? But
yeah, because there's no, yeah.
Is there cameras? Doesn't anybody have cameras out there?
There's there's cameras at the Lorda campground. There's a few of them, and then there's some, I believe, on the other side of where Daniel lives that doesn't show, from what I understand, his house, but kind of like, remember in the Brian Koberger case where everybody was trying to say that Brian Koberger parked in the back of the house, and I was looking at the surveillance camera, and you can see in the top corner, as Brian Koberger passed by the house four different times, you'll see the vehicle, the headlights swing on these roofs, on the face of these houses in the distance, and it happens 3 times, and then on the 4th time when he parks, it does the exact same swoosh. And the reason that's important is because had he gone and parked back there, we wouldn't have seen the same movement. And so the other thing that that camera points out at, now this camera is facing away from the house, and so the other thing that we know though is, had that vehicle turned onto King Road, we would have seen the headlights in the distance as well, or the headlights coming up the side of the road. And so that only left one place for them to park. Now, because all that happened at night, we were able to determine that. If it happened in the day, we wouldn't have seen those headlights and things. And so at night, because I know a lot of people argue, well, how come they didn't pick up the kids walking off or things like that? My opinion is at night, what they captured was the possibility of headlights. And Mr. Wong, what he said was he saw Daniel's car, or a car, with the headlights on, and it was loud, 5-speed or whatever it was. And so you would expect to see the headlights in those cameras or during that time. And if you don't see them and he's claiming that they're on, well, now you have an issue. But I think they probably have something even closer, to be honest with you, for them to have come out and disputed it. I believe they have something even more concrete, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been told that the cameras don't work at the campground because it's been closed for a while. Then I told
they caught somebody breaking in.
Okay. And then, I mean, it just all depends on where they're at and where they're working. Like, I don't know where all the cameras are. I've tried to look for them and stuff, but.
How close was that break-in to this? As far as date, like, was it?
Oh, the break into the Lorda campground. I think it was just some transients that were going through.
Okay.
And so the campground decided to put some cameras up. And they have some at the end. From what I understand, there's some kind of looking at the entrance, which faces the roadway. And then there's some by the cabins. Now, like, it doesn't even matter because I don't really think, like I said, I don't think Brad Wong or Justin Smith have anything to do with Jack and Lily's disappearance.
Yeah.
I don't, the only thing I would be concerned about if I was Brad Wong is, how did some of my stuff end up on my buddy's sister's property? It's either he lent him something or he stole something from him, but one or the other. I'd ask my buddy, like, hey, why is my blanket at your sister's house? And figure it out that way. You know what I'm saying? But that's what that came out of. And at the end of the day, like the blanket, that blue blanket, and like what I guess what was reported, it was disputed and it was irrelevant.
No, nothing. Sucks.
Yeah. Now the other information that I got. So I spoke with before, guys, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. So I spoke with a couple of folks. Now I spoke with Malaya's two best friends, and I also spoke with a person who was on a search during the Please Bring Me Home search, who was in the group with Cindy. Now, one of the things that happened was during their search, the conversation came up about Malaya. And the conversation went to, somebody asking Cindy, I just don't understand why Malaya would just leave. Why would she leave? And from what I understand is that Cindy turned around and said, because I made her. And from what I understand happened in the ambulance, according to what my source said that she heard Cindy say, was that there was a discussion in the ambulance, something to the effect that CPS didn't want Meadow there, and they wanted Meadow to go somewhere else, just with a lot of people coming in and going and things of that nature. So I think the plan initially was going to go to Logan's, and then I guess something about Cindy had talked with RCMP and something about her. She was going to be the guardian, the interim guardian, and she basically told Malaya that she's going to leave. She's going to take Meadow, and that if she stays with Daniel, she ain't going to see Meadow ever again either. And from what I understand is when they took Meadow away, it was Cindy who actually called CPS and had her taken away. And so I spoke with Malaya's two best friends, and they say, no, it didn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way. I don't know how they would know what happened in the ambulance, but they say that didn't happen that way. And I'm assuming maybe Malaya may have told her something else, but one of her best friends said that it didn't happen that way. I don't know who we is, but we weren't going to let her stay there, and they forced her out of there too. So either way, it seems like somebody, wanted her to not stay there with Daniel. I know a lot of people are saying, well, my kids are there, like, if they come back missing, but apparently her and her mom aren't like, they weren't always, I guess, on best terms. And it sounds like she's got this temporary custody, and she's threatening her, saying that she's not going to see her again. How does that affect? I want to ask you this, Dr. Vaughn. How does that affect what your thoughts are on her leaving in that type of situation, where now her other daughter is being threatened of taken away by her mom, and from what I understand, was Malaya didn't want to leave. She was forced, according to what the sources tell me. What do you think?
So I do have a quick question. When did she leave? Was it the next day or that?
I think it was like 2 days later.
Saturday.
I don't know why I always thought it was like right after it happened. So it was 2 days later. So she was there for a little bit. I think I thought before that she like left that day, and that's why I was like, what the heck? A few days later, maybe by that point, they might have thought like if something happens, they'll call the cell phone, they'll come right back, and that being there isn't serving anyone. So I didn't know that. So now knowing that, I will say this. She's a grown woman with 3 children, and if her mom is insisting that she leave, then to me that shows a dynamic where there might be enmeshment of some sort. Like, in other words, for most women, it's one thing for your mom to tell you that I think you should leave, and these are the reasons why you want to leave. Go ahead.
They apparently, Malaya was raised by her grandmother and has had a bad relationship with her mom.
Which is even more than, is the grandmother still around?
I believe so, but the grandmother lives a distance away. And then I do want to preference this with this. So one of the things that had bothered me, because I had talked with Daniel, and Daniel had one time kind of confirmed to me that that Cindy had called CPS on Malaya, because Malaya had taken off with Meadow and Wade, who's Cindy's boyfriend, which I still don't understand why she's calling. It doesn't make sense to me. And I mentioned this last time. I was like, there's parts of this that just don't make sense to me. I don't understand why she's calling CPS on her daughter when she's going with, I guess, her boyfriend. But they called CPS for that. And Meadow is, I believe, at another family member's house who's not that far away. And so what that kind of tells me is that they were like, all right, you're going to, she's going to be in foster care, but she's with somebody I think is close to her. And so I think that she did not agree for Meadow to go back with her mom. Because I wonder why didn't they, send her back with her mom if she was the intern guardian? I think that was the situation. And so it kind of adds to the possibility that there was some sort of bad blood there. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it sounds like it is. And why would the mom try to get custody? In my opinion, it could be. And this is, again, I'm going by human behavior, not their story specifically. But that could be because she wasn't there for Malaya. It's like her trying to compensate, or like trying to, like, now she's like, it gives her another reason to do it over. If you think about it, history tends to repeat itself, so that she would now be the grandmom of this kid, where the grandmom of Malaya raised her. Does that make sense? So it's almost like, do you get what I'm saying? So like Malaya's mom would be the grandmother of the baby. So maybe it's like history repeating itself subconsciously to her, almost like she wasn't there for Malaya, so she wants to be there for her grandchild. My thing is this: if she didn't want her to be there so bad, what environment do they believe Daniel provided that they were that, adamant that she needs to leave with the baby?
I have no idea what happened. I have no idea. When I talked to Malaya's best friends, she had said that that it didn't happen that way. And I asked, well, what was the situation that arose from, getting Meadow taken away? And they said Malaya had gone with Wade and Meadow. And then they said that it would have had to have been Cindy who called. But I don't know. You know, I don't know what happened. I don't know what occurred for that. You know, it sounds. I mean, I don't know. I'd be just speculating on everything after that point. You know what I mean? And that's probably not
unfortunately,
right.
a lot of this case is speculation because we don't know, you know, all of the things.
Right.
But then we wouldn't be here, right? If we knew
Right.
everything. So I mean, we're definitely going to speculate. But that's what I keep thinking is like, what did the mother perceive was going on at that house that she
Oh.
insisted she go with
So,
her?
I think that has to do with Daniel, and possibly like you know, Meadow wasn't walking, and she's developed a lot since. Now, a lot of people, and I was talking with a group of folks about this that are very close to this, and they were like, yeah, CPS came in and, you know, they didn't see anything wrong. And I was like, yeah, but, you know, when CPS got there, Meadow was like 12 months old. So it wouldn't have been uncommon for her not to be walking at that point. You know, I think she was like, or, you know, 18 months when the disappearance happened. And so, you know, she wasn't walking. There was some other things there. Apparently the house was filthy, you know, and I think that they believed, and probably accurately, that at some point leading up to this event, you know, I don't know if it was the night before or if it was the week before or a month and a half before, but that Daniel was involved in stimulant drugs, which he's been open and honest about that. He's talked about that. He talked about that in our interview, that he's used narcotics. And so, you know, he's also been open about that with law enforcement. And so I think that had probably a role. You mean, you walk in, you got 2 kids missing, the place is filthy. And I think even Belinda mentioned that it wasn't to what she had expected out of Malaya from what she had seen from her in the past when she went to the house. And so I think a combination of all those things and the kids missing, you know, and I put this out for everybody. If you go and your daughter's there and you have this guy and she's maybe told you about him having a drug problem, you have 2 kids missing already. Are you going to leave your other grandchild and your daughter there with him? I think you have a right to and a reason to be worried and to want them out of that house. And I don't see that as a you know, and I think that she probably felt that as mom, hey, I haven't been there for her. I'm not going to leave her in this situation, and I'm going to forcibly take her out of another bad decision. You know, that way this doesn't get worse than what it already is. And you know,
So I think regardless of what we think, that the truth is that the mom, if she was the one that called, she has the power now to say to her daughter, if you don't leave, I call and tell them, and they're going to take this child out of here anyway. So like that would make sense, where like the last time we talked about it, it just sounded like her mom was just like, you know, saying to her, you need to leave. But if she like is the one that called Child Protective Services, then that would give her power over the daughter by saying like, you leave, or I called, you know, get the baby taken from you.
right.
Wait, didn't Daniel call too? Didn't both of them call? Yeah. He said he called. I'm pretty sure.
Why did he call?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure he said he did.
Because
After
I think the thought was that Malaya was running off to the reservation with Meadow.
I believe she was running from someone. Just speculation. I talked to somebody. I'm not going to say somebody's name, but they know I've seen pictures of Malaya's house that she's living in now with, I'm just going to leave it at that, because this person took a picture of it.
Well, there is a person that is following her quite creepily, and has basically been stalking her and stuff like that. Like the information about Malaya being in treatment, which I found out a little bit more information about. I know a little bit more. It was for a nervous. It was not a drug related anything. It was a nervous, mental type situation because of what's going on with her kids being missing. And so, but the only reason that information got out was because I was getting like seeing that these rumors were starting to be speculated and spread that she ran off or that she took off and or that she took off with a boyfriend. Like I heard like a few of them, and I was like, that's not what happened. You know, does she have male acquaintances or friends? Probably. You know, I've heard that's that's more than likely the answer is yes, but. Dr. Vaughn, I'll ask you this: when somebody is vulnerable and they're in a situation of loss and grief, can somebody, I don't want to say take advantage of that situation, but can they be in a more vulnerable situation to be taken advantage of in those type of situations?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially if it's someone that you've trusted at some point or, been thought to trust. So absolutely, you could be more manipulated in that situation. That's usually when people are at highest risk of manipulation.
Absolutely. Can I say something else?
Go ahead.
I know that Malaya tried to leave too, a couple of months prior to this, and then decided not to.
I've heard that from one person. And
boyfriend.
Yeah, I've also heard that it was true. I heard it wasn't true. I haven't been able to confirm one way or the other on that one, but I wouldn't be surprised. Daniel doesn't strike me as the the best boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he can be. Because we've seen Taylor's text messages and stuff. There's some other ones that I've seen that aren't out there, and they're nothing like horrible or anything like that. But the dude was.
Remember the R one?
I've seen him recently.
He was. Him and Taylor were dirty talking, and he said that he wanted to wake up next to her and turn over and R, and she was like, "Ooh, yeah." They were into some weird stuff. Like she created fake bruises pictures and stuff like that, and then she had some real bruises, and then I was like, holy crap, are you okay? And she's like, oh no, we got that, doing the hanky panky type stuff. And like, she told somebody, I think somebody else that was investigating the case, that Daniel's a good F and all this stuff, like all over Facebook. And like she continues to contact him.
The thing that gets me like about that is I feel like, just like we were saying about Malaya getting taken advantage of, I feel like for this girl, someone who is into getting bruises like that or faking the bruise, like just all of it, I feel like is there unresolved trauma that she's dealing with, and is he then taking advantage of her too?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. She created fake bruises to tell him that she was abused by her ex to gain his sympathy.
That's just weird. That's just so weird to me.
That's exactly what she said to me is what she did. Not in those words, but that's exactly what she did. She gained his sympathy by showing these fake bruises of herself. Now, he was completely wrong in trying to manipulate that situation into forcing her to stay or whatever the case may be by saying, I'm going to report these to CPS. That was, regardless of how wrong she was, he was equally as wrong. And I've said that since the beginning, since all that came out. It's like they both were. And they both got kind of, what they deserved, to be honest with you.
Do you think it was done to create like attention?
No.
To get a response from Malaya or something? I don't know.
No.
He definitely loves to hate her.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't
Seems
think
like
so.
something like a side twisted thing to get Malaya's attention because she's not speaking,
Like maybe to make her
jealous. Because he was dating her for a minute.
The response out of her.
He was dating her for a minute because he told me one thing one time. He told me, what'd he say? He's like, I have support of somebody, but I never talk about, I'll never say who this person is. And I was like, oh, this guy's got a girlfriend. And immediately, that's the first thing that went to my mind. I was like, this guy's got a girlfriend. Then like 2-3 days later, the girlfriend messages me and says something to the effect that, hey, I'm talking to Daniel, and sends me the screenshots between them and to prove that they're talking and all these other things. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, you know, what's going on? And she starts just kind of telling me about, you know, her plan, so to speak, that that she wanted to gain information to find out if he was capable of doing something to Lilly and Jack. And I was like, you know, how long have you been talking to him or whatever? And she told me it'd been, you know, sometimes. So she'd already met him and gone back and forth. And I was like, well, I mean, you know, if somebody came up to me and said, hey, I'm going to go do this with this guy that I suspect may have killed 2 people, I probably would have said, hey, don't be doing that. That's kind of not the smartest thing to do. But, you know, she was already kind of involved in this relationship. And so it was weird, but I was like, you know, to me, it came off like she was trying to be Scott Peterson's girlfriend.
And it's almost like manipulative. She's trying to manipulate that to get information, and then he takes advantage and manipulates back. It's like, so I see what you mean by they both.
Oh yeah. No, they both did.
Wouldn't you be frightened? Like, why would you? And I'm not saying.
I think that's what I'm saying.
Be frightened to get with.
Yeah, that's the trauma part. That's the trauma part, I think.
Like,
didn't she go into a hospital right after?
She did.
Yes.
She did go to a hospital. And you know, like I said, Daniel's not the nicest guy. I mean, I saw some of the text messages. They were like, because there were times where she was going to go and because he said some weird stuff, she stopped and turned around and didn't go, and he would get mad. And then like for instance, one message was like, so what are you going to do today, Taylor? It's like, I'm going to go over there. And she's like, all right, and what are you not going to do? He's like, turn around. It's like, good, Taylor. And it just sounds like a manipulative, controlling, you know, but does that mean he did something horrible to these 2 kids? I don't think so. You know, one of the things I said with the Summer Wells case, I had Jennifer Coffindaffer on the channel, and she believes that Dawn and Candace may have done something. And I'm very new to that case. I don't know. But what I did say, and I think it kind of plays into this role here, is that when you have people that aren't the best, you know, I don't want to use the word, I don't want to curse, crappy. If you have crappy people that do crappy things, they're also going to have an environment where some bad things can happen, where they may not be responsible to the extent where they're, you know, something super horrible happened, but they left an opening for something to happen.
Put the cards on the table for it. Yeah,
exactly. And in this situation, that's kind of where I'm like, hey, you know, if and I'm not saying that because I don't know that with Daniel and Malaya. I don't know that. I strongly believe that they wandered off. But you know, if somebody wants to argue that they were neglectful and they should have been watching them, I can't debate that. You know, what do you guys think?
That's exactly what I think. I think that it doesn't mean that it's a, you know, reason to think that they did the ultimate something, but like you were saying, could this be neglect and, you know, not having the appropriate guards in place and things like that so that the kids couldn't get out possibly.
Mm-hmm. And so now that I've
Daphne, what do you think?
Yeah.
I think you guys all know what I think.
I actually don't.
Okay, so I don't believe that they walked off. I mean, because there's not enough proof for me, right? Like I have no problem with anybody else's perception on it. I don't, right? I just feel that the blueprints on the pipeline, there's a cluster, and that could have, even Daniel doesn't think that they walked out there, right? With the conditions, there's several ATV tracks out there. I mean, if there was hanky-panky going on with that blanket, the piece of a blanket, right? There could have been hanky-panky with someone with the ATV and the kid's boots. I'm not saying that's what happened, but the dog actually got a scent off the boot print in the driveway, Belinda said. And then that dog, the bloodhound, with using the piece of the pink blanket in the tree, couldn't get a scent out there in the pipeline. I just find that weird, right? Like the dog has extra help to get a scent with the ones on the pipeline, but didn't need the extra help, talking about the blanket, for the one in the driveway. I just feel that I thought forever that somebody maybe had picked them up. I don't like the theory with her giving the kids away or something, but the RCMP, just like with the cameras, they say there's no evidence of it. There's no evidence of an abduction. So that makes you.
That's what's so maddening, right? There's like no evidence of really anything.
Yeah, I know. There's no evidence of anything. It's like, well, there had to have been something that happened. So you kind of got to lay your cards out, right? Has there been prior this, prior that? That's the way I look at it. Patterns, right? And like that kind of.
The dogs that were out there were open air scent dogs. They didn't have tracking dogs like a bloodhound.
No, but they gave it a scent from the blanket, I was told.
But they weren't tracking dogs. They were open scent dogs. There was one that I believe that was out there that was supposedly, according to Daniel, there was one that was uncertified, a handler, and that was the handler that found the boot prints on the pipeline.
Yes.
And so, and from what he had told me was that it was not like connected, like they didn't trace it, but like they kept going back and forth where the dog had some sort of scent, I guess what the blanket was, but it eventually found its way out there. But I guess it wasn't like a solid, because it took them several hours. It went from 4 p.m. to 1 something in the morning. But yeah, I'm going to ask the canine guys again, but if the dogs that they had, and the reason why I think that they were just the canine, that that air scent dogs only, because one, RCMP documents say that they were air scent dogs, and two, I think those were the dogs that were deployed at Lake Eden for the kayaker. Is that correct?
Yes, Lake Eden.
And so those dogs that were out there, they were looking for somebody that was lost in the woods, and so you don't really have anything to track from out like you have somebody missing there. I guess you can get some clothes from the guy's house or whatnot. I don't know the circumstances behind his disappearance, but
yeah, I don't know much either.
If they're looking for somebody that's lost in the woods and they don't have like something to compare, they're going to send out the open air scent dogs, because those dogs are looking for a scent in the air. So for one, they have their nose up. That's one thing that I had learned with the canine crew that we were talking about with the Summer Wells case. And the bloodhounds, they're known to have their nose to the ground. But so the open air scent dog, I don't know if it would really, if that makes sense, but I do know that they stopped at the driveway. And one of the questions I have for my canine friends, and I haven't gotten the answer yet, is when it comes to the open air scent dogs, if you had a lot of people that were at the driveway, would that be a reason why they congregated there?
Is Jules in here right now? I have a good friend. She's a dog handler.
Oh, good deal.
But she's not in she's a mod. She's not in here tonight.
Oh, no.
I wish she was. I mean, I know she's probably told me 100 times, but I'm not a dog handler. So I have a dog, but I'm not a handler.
And so Daphne, I know you say you don't think they wandered off. So if we were to put into, what do you think most likely occurred?
Well, my honest opinion, I feel like there was either, I felt that Malaya was trying to leave again or something. I feel like there was some issues going, well, we know there was some issues going on with I'm just going to say substances, right? We all know what that means. and maybe I don't know. I don't really see two getting into it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The mention of the children being hyper and stuff, but then on the other hand, like if something did happen to them in the house, you know, there wasn't human remains dogs until 5 months later, so the gases would be gone from that. And I'm just speculating, right? I just feel like I don't feel like anything. I don't feel like they walked off. I just don't feel like that happened.
So
other
if
than
I-
the being out there.
If I had to make a case, Daphne, to help, like not to help you out on this, but like, because I try to see things in all different lights. If we were going by human behavior, there is evidence just in general that, and not here, but just in general, that if somebody leaves or threatens to leave a relationship, that is the most dangerous time for that person. So, and especially for the kids and stuff. So I could see if something did happen that, you know, maybe he was afraid of that or just the situation. So I could see why you think that. But I could also see why, you know, Daniel, you think that they're in the woods, but then the other Daniel swears they're not in the woods. I just feel like we have so many different angles of possibility that could happen that anybody, depending on, like, I'm trying not to sit in just one light because I want to keep the possibility open for any of these things, because I don't want to miss something if I do see something that is like, wait, what? Well, in any light, like in any way. So I just feel like there's not consensus about what happened. And I think that's because there's so little. I mean, I know we know some things in the police documents, but there's so many other things that everybody's speculating on, including Daniel, right? Not you, the other Daniel. He swears like they're not in the woods. He thinks that they might have been on the reserve. Like there's just so many, like, could they have done this? So I feel like you could say this is speculation in all ends. I saw someone saying that DT, that we're full of shit. But I guess my thing is that we're putting what our opinion is based on what we've seen so far. And I think all three of us are probably open to the fact that if we see new evidence in any direction, that we're all grown up enough and professional enough to reevaluate based on any new evidence in any direction.
Absolutely.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you know, Steve Gonsalves, the father of a victim, you know, just because he was the father of a victim didn't mean he knew more than law enforcement. Doesn't mean that his thoughts or his opinions were more right than what the evidence was. And, you know, he may have had preview or privilege to certain things more. And his scenario was a bit different than Daniel here, because they had evidence and body and things of that nature. But when you have law enforcement coming out and saying things like, you know, we're going to do this investigation with the attempt to eliminate these folks as suspects of something. And then they tell you what it is that they're going to do to determine that. And then they show you their work. And then at the end, they say, with the intent to, you know, eliminate this as a possibility, we found that there was a criminal offense, I think is the word that they use. In efforts to eliminate this as a criminal offense as a possibility, we have found no grounds of criminal activity or criminal offense occurring. At a certain point, just because certain things look like they're red flags or whatnot, which they very well could be for other things. Like, for instance, in the Delphi case, you know, Ron Logan had a lot of red flags. He didn't take the lives of those two little girls, you know? And so in this scenario here, you know, I agree. I agree with both of you guys about many things when it comes to Daniel and his personality and how he behaves. I just don't think that there's something there that results in a criminal investigation. And now you have Daniel that says that the blanket was planted and he doesn't think that the boot prints are there. Law enforcement did an extensive investigation into the boot prints from May 3rd to May 27th. And so, you know, I know a lot of people will come up here and say, well, this person was on the pipeline with these kids, or that person was over there with those kids. Well, if law enforcement is doing an extensive investigation for almost a month and you know about those people on the pipeline, don't you think that law enforcement knows about those people on the pipeline? And don't you think that if they're doing that extensive of an investigation, they're not going out and asking these folks, hey, What size boot prints are your kids? Were you out at this area of the pipeline? Were you doing this? And then we also have to come to the understanding that if there was people out there searching day one like that, then they're probably either reside very close or very close to the investigation by either a friendship or relationship or neighborhood or being a neighbor. And so we would assume that they're also invested in this. And I would assume that they would know that these boot prints would be a question. And the one thing that hasn't happened is that somebody hasn't come forward who would have knowledge of the search because they would have been out there, who would have knowledge of all these things because they're well invested, because they're there day one. Why haven't they come out forward and said, hey, no, those boot prints belong to my kids?
I guess the theory would be as if they were planted. I guess that would be the other theory.
Now I would understand that. So if somebody were to try to say that was Daniel that planted them, well, he planted the blanket and then he planted the boot prints in the middle of nowhere. Why is he going around telling people they're planted? Doesn't you think his story would be they wandered off?
Here, I don't know. Well, I'm not saying Daniel did, or maybe somebody else did. I do know that someone that lives very close by, I'm not going to say who it is or anything, they do have about 12 children, different age ranges, that actually live right there, by the property, by the pipeline. Now, I don't know, maybe they didn't. No, I know they did a casting and everything of the boot. When I spoke to Belinda, she says there's not really many places to even buy stuff like that. Walmart is the main place where the lady went and checked the receipt and all that for Malaya. And she said that, the boot sizes and stuff. And Belinda says those boots are so common that her other grandson even has them. Those I call them muck boots because I walk in muck in mine. But so I just find it very odd too. And they searched 7 kilometers out there with like helicopters 200 feet above with radar. Now I know they could have went further. Obviously, especially if the time frame was different. The conditions too and stuff, you got to put all that into it. But I mean, if they're on a mission and they're going right, but there's also, it's like, ooh, there we are.
Was that? Yeah,
Good
no, that was me.
Good old StreamYard.
Yeah,
I do have a question, Daniel. I have a question. So I know that this bothers a lot of people. Why do you think Daniel doesn't remember about Thursday night?
I think he doesn't want to admit that he was probably doing something he shouldn't have been doing, but that's just my opinion.
Do you think that maybe that that he does remember more than what he's saying? Because remember he kept saying, okay, well, there you go. So there you go. That would clear it up to a lot of people that don't think that you think that. But I think the point here is
I think the thing that gets over a lot of people's heads is the fact that they think that because I agree with RCMP that the kids wandered off, automatically assumes that I agree with everything that Daniel says. And
if anything, Daniel doesn't
very
think
small-minded people, huh?
Daniel doesn't even think that that's what happened.
Yeah, but Daniel doesn't know everything.
But I guess what I'm saying is that if you agreed with everything that he says, you would be agreeing that
yeah, exactly. I agree with right, exactly. I disagree with almost everything Daniel tells. There's not very much, to be honest with you, that I've agreed with when it came to what Daniel was telling me. And I've tried to tell this to a lot of people, but there's so many small-minded folks that think that because I believe what the RCMP documents state, I believe the investigation, and I understand what the investigation results mean, that they most likely didn't commit a nefarious crime or try to cover up an accident. That doesn't mean I believe everything he says. I believe almost like hardly any of it. In fact, I had an entire live stream where I talked about it. I was like, yeah, I feel like Daniel lied to me because I asked him, what were you doing? He's like, I don't remember. And I was like, I don't buy that, dude. Like I've had several live streams where I've talked about that specifically, but you have these folks who think that just because I think the kids wandered off, that I automatically am siding with everything that Daniel says and go out there and spread this misinformation about it. In reality, they never saw a damn thing about anything, and they're too stupid to understand what I'm saying. And it's the plain truth. And I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. It's because I'm talking to you if it's hurting your feelings. And so and like I said here, this isn't something, this is the pipeline. A couple kids can walk through that.
This is just recent, right? This is the ones Daniel took a picture of?
No, this is from the search, but this is recent.
Okay.
Daniel did not take these. This is from the PBMH search.
Okay, right off of Landsdowne Road?
Correct. This is about, I have the exact location. Let me pull it up real quick.
Do you want me to bring up Google Earth?
I got it. I know you had some issues the last time. I don't want any.
Horrible.
It's okay. It's okay. Let's see. But yeah, I mean, I'm like, it's kind of like I get fed up with trying to explain the same thing over. Like, oh yeah, I don't believe. They're like, well, how do you believe Daniel? I see it in my comment section so many times. I'm like it's like I'm banging my head against a brick wall, and I'm like, it's not that I believe Daniel. I believe that the investigation and the results. It's one thing to have an accusation. I don't hang on the accusation. I look at what the investigation was, what the results were, the investigation. What should they have learned from the investigation? Like if you go into, like, I know a lot of people say, for instance, oh, maybe Daniel had a burner phone. All right, well, there's a couple of things that required a burner phone. For one, you have to put minutes on it, or you have to activate it. You also have to have internet service provided to it in some form or fashion. So there's going to be a digital footprint at your home of another device if it's on the router because the service is bad, or if you had to go and purchase minutes and things of that nature. There's a financial footprint behind those things. And so when I look at just like one little thing that they have done, I understand that how much evidence you can find off of that one search, just off of the financial records. You know, a lot of people look, oh man, they looked at the financial records. They're looking for purchases of drugs. That's how they found the boot prints that they matched, was because they were able to look at Malaya's financial records, and then they found the purchase, and they went and they picked up the boots, and it was the same size and matched everything. So there is more to it per se. It's not just face value when it comes to some of this evidence. And so I just get fed up trying to explain that to folks. I don't try to be rude or anything like that, but my gosh, like
I can't even read chat because it's like moving and I can't.
Yeah. So here's the exact location of the footprints. I have the GPS location. And one of the things that interested me was that you have this blanket, and Michelle After Dark, another creator, she's about to get 100,000 subscribers. Go check her out. She actually watched the one of the episodes that we were talking about this case. And she pointed out, because she does a lot of things with tracking and trailing with dogs and things of that nature as well, that it does appear that there is a trail here. You have a blanket, and then you have footprints that match, and there is a path that goes there. And we had a person drop. What's that?
I think it's an old road. They used to use it, but they don't anymore.
Yeah. And it just so happens to pop out like within like 2 football fields from where the boot prints are.
Yeah, but what about all that brush right there? They'd have to go through. I think that was, I measured that little point right there. Like kids are messy when they walk, right? Like they scuff their feet, they fall.
20 yards.
They're just,
not even 15.
And that's thick. Like here in the Northeast, you know how like it is here, right? Like you got these stinking honeysuckle bushes and rose bushes that got thorns the size of like your thumb. You would think there would be some kind of torn clothing or like cuts on their skin or something for the dog to scent. I mean, and I always say a dog's only as good as its handler, but you'd think there'd be something else other than those just little clumps of footprints.
Well, I think they had open air scent dogs, which would have made it different from tracking dogs for them to have done that. And so I think that's probably the main aspect there. I had a person send me a 57-page document, which I've sent over to Please Bring Me Home, and it's actually been sent over to a few places. This person dives deep into this research into kids with autism, that 49% of kids with autism between the ages of 4 and 6 wander off. And many of them didn't have a history of it before. And there's even a study, and they did a study with 12,000 families to figure this out. And, you know, some of the information that they had was that, you know, if you had 2 kids that were autistic, there would be a certain path that you would be looking for, clear lines, nothing overhead, things of that nature. And when you follow, and she does this brilliantly about the path on how it goes from like a northwest, southwest, east, west, some sort of pattern that is very similar to what, and I can send it to both of you guys. I'll send you the document and what to look for. But she thinks that they could have gotten as far as, gosh, way past this way. You know, and the problem is when, and Michelle After Dark pointed this out, by the time that the search team got there, she put up a circle of the search area, the perimeter that they were searching. It only went up to about right here to the end of this road. So they didn't find the boot print till like 1 a.m, because by the time they got there, they and they could have easily have been by this blueprint by the time they showed up. You know, 911 doesn't get called till 10. The first law enforcement officer doesn't arrive till 10:27. You know, ground and search and rescue were close by, but they still need to pack up. They need to get out. They need to get over. I think it was closer to about 12 o'clock by the time they actually started getting out and searching. And if the kids got out by 9 o'clock, that's 3 hours. And this is only 1.5 miles.
Yeah, but I just feel like there'd be other track marks out there. They weren't diagnosed autistic. Just in my opinion, I'm not even gonna give an opinion on that. But they weren't diagnosed autistic, and usually autistic children are more focused towards water, right? I mean, yeah, they could just wander off, of course, like any child, but I feel like there would still be something, right? There would still be something else other than the little feet.
But it's not just nothing. There's a cluster of prints. There's also a blanket on the same path. Yeah. Now, I know Daniel says this and that and whatever. Like I said, I don't believe Daniel. I believe Daniel on that.
I do. I feel like someone put that in the tree.
I think that if you got to understand when he was told this by law enforcement, right? Because law enforcement supposedly told him this. One, if law enforcement is telling him that somebody's planting evidence, that's a crime in its own. And they have not turned this into a criminal investigation whatsoever. And so that's one thing. And then 2, you got to wonder when it was that this conversation occurred. And from what I understand, it was when they picked up the clothing for Jack and Lilly, which I think was within a month. And so who do you think, just because Daniel isn't prime suspect number 1 today, and they've all but cleared him, just because he's not prime suspect number 1 doesn't mean he wasn't prime suspect number 1, you know, then. And so if you have prime suspect number 1 coming in and saying, hey, you know, I think this blanket's planted, you know what I'm going to tell him? You know what it is? Why don't you tell me a little bit more about why you think that? Because I'm going to suspect that he planted it. And from what I understand is they did 4 interrogations on him and things of that nature. And so, you know, they questioned him. They pushed him. The investigation that the RCMP put out is not an investigation that they put against somebody that's a witness or that's somebody they think is innocent. They don't go through your background. They don't go through all those things. So he was suspect number 1, and they treated him as such. It's just at the end of the day, the result of it was, you know, some people don't like the results, but it is what the results are.
Could it also be, though, like, could there be a possibility that it's not that they cleared them, but that they just don't have enough evidence of anything? And what I mean by cleared is just that I'm sure everybody's still a suspect in their minds until the kids are found, right? I mean, I would assume that everybody's a suspect until the kids were found. Real quick, can I just say something about the autism? Because a lot of people are like, autism spectrum, and because this is what I do for a living, I feel the need to jump in.
Yes, please.
I think it's not good that they that they're leading people to believe that they have autism only because they weren't diagnosed. And you need to do, I mean, diagnosis is like a big process, and autism is a spectrum. The same things that they could be like, in other words, they're not, neither one of them are capable of diagnosing autism. And just by talking to them, you wouldn't diagnose autism either. There's like a whole spectrum of testing that has to be done. So the autism thing, I don't usually say that part because we don't know if the kids were autistic. What if that was, what if we're seeing signs of, and again, I'm not saying this, I'm just saying there's other things. It could be ADHD. There could be signs of neglect. There could be signs of malnourishment. So there's like a million other things that, not a million, that's dramatic, but there's other things that could account for some of the symptoms or characteristics that people have mentioned. That's all.
So the autism stuff comes from because there was apparently CPS that was called in, and I'm sure you can answer this. This gets called in, or any state entity gets called in, and they recognize that they're, even though they're not in that field per se. Like, don't you think, like, for instance, my daughter, she's taken speech therapy, her speech therapist.
Oh no,
it's okay. He'll be right back. But here he comes. I think I hear him coming back.
Okay.
Yes, CPS does not get called for autism. I do agree with that. I agree. I also don't think that CPS gets called for
misbehavior
services. Well, maybe for misbehavior, but not for referral of services. Didn't DM say that they were trying to refer services or something?
I'm so sorry. This rubber banding so bad.
No, DM, didn't he say that that the Child Protective Services came out because they were trying to give them resources or something?
Yes.
I don't think they come out for resources either.
Yeah, that's weird, right? I don't think they do either. But I don't know too much about CPS, so I don't know.
I know that there has to be a complaint, but this is the thing. I can call and complain on anyone, right? Just like anybody can call and complain on me. So that's the point of an investigation. So, but people don't call CPS so that you could give resources. There's other entities that could do that. So I feel like CPS would be inundated if they had to add that to their list of things they're responsible for.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yes. Yeah.
So I would think that they were
from somebody. I think it might have been the teacher, but I'm just speculating on that. That's just hearsay. I could be wrong.
All right.
Hi, there you go.
So do it once a night.
Yeah. No, I just had to reload my internet. It was kind of weird thing. Anywho, so what I was saying was, and maybe you can answer this better, Dr. Vona, but like, if the state goes out there, like even CPS, and they recognize a need for something, whether it be a therapist for social skills, for speech therapy, for any of those other things, wouldn't they start to, wouldn't they assist the family in those type of things?
Yeah, they would, but they probably didn't go out there for that reason.
No, of course they didn't go out there for that reason. I don't think that's why.
Well then, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would hope that they would say, I don't know if it's different in Canada, but I would hope that they would. But I don't think that they would go out there for that. I also think that and I know that here in the States, we have other entities that help with resources. So they could even set them up with that other entity to see what resources are available. But they wouldn't come out just to give somebody resources.
Right. But I don't think I ever said that was the reason why they came out. I think if the result was, if they go out there because there's some behavioral issues with the kids, and they go out there and they say, hey, you know what, we think that you guys would benefit from this. We think this is what's really going on. A lot of people are looking at the accusation. And this is kind of like one of the things that I was mentioning earlier, where they look at the accusation, not the investigation, and then the result, right? Because they look at the accusation, oh, CPS was called, that means something horrible was happening. And then if we, and again, we have to take Daniel's word for it. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. Yeah. But at the end of the day, CPS there wasn't any charges, there wasn't anything brought up, and law enforcement should have some idea of what was going on with CPS even back in December to, if there was a criminal offense that they thought that was going on then, that would have continued, there would have been an investigation and, charges and things of that nature.
This is what I would say here is that with CPS, when you were off for a second, I was saying anybody, I could call CPS on you, you could call CPS on me. So anybody could call CPS on someone. They have to do an investigation at that point. So you could be the best parent in the world. If CPS is called on you, they have to do an investigation. What if you're not the best parent in the world? Then, you know what I mean? So they have to do that. Now, I don't think, though, that they would say this is what I think's going on, because they wouldn't be qualified to say what they like, especially if they think something medical is going on. However, they could say something like, you might want to go, get evaluated for da-da-da, but I don't think that they would be able to say, like, this is what's going on.
Right. I didn't say that either. What
I didn't say that. When I say this, I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying, like, in my head, that's what I would be thinking.
Gotcha. I know it's breaking up. I don't know if it's probably me still. Am I still breaking up?
Yeah, it's rubber banding. I hear like every other word. I'm so sorry. That's why I'm like,
Yeah, no, I understand. It's my
Sorry.
internet. I don't know why my internet is acting up tonight.
Is it storming or anything where you're at?
There's supposed to be a cold front, but you guys are sounding better now. Some folks are saying Dr. Vona is glitchy, because Dr. Vona is coming off glitchy to me. Daphne, you sound perfect to me.
Oh, I do?
That
Okay.
sounds good to me, too.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I don't know.
Sorry. I'm like, my face is like this close because I can't see anything.
Right.
Hear anything, see anything.
Right.
I'll try to fix it real quick. Use to talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, I just think that, like I said, at the end of the day, it's the result of the investigation as well that probably matters more. And I think that a lot of people look at me and say, hey, well, Daniel, these other people were looking at this case for 4 or 5 months before. And one of the things that I hear is like, oh, well, you weren't there when this happened and how suspicious this looked. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm here, and hindsight is always the best vision. I'm here after the fact where I can see the results of the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And although it was suspicious then, and I will agree,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been right there with you guys, waving my hand saying, yeah, Daniel did something or whatever. But as the information comes out and as the investigation, as RCMP starts to release their information, I follow the evidence. And one of the biggest things that they said, and again, this is one of the things I'll ask you, Daphne, is if have you ever seen a situation in any of the cases that you've ever covered where law enforcement drop this much of their investigation and information into somebody before they make an arrest on them?
Yeah, no, I haven't. I can agree with you absolutely on that. I have not, but I don't. The RCMP are very, very secretive too, more so than us here in the United States, right?
I agree. That makes this even worse.
Yeah.
Better for Daniel.
Well, yeah. Sometimes it makes me shake my head because I'm like, are they even giving us stuff? Do you see what I'm saying? Are they even giving us stuff that's truthful? Just because, I mean, I know it's truthful, but there is a lot that is covered up too. But there is a lot that we can see. Absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. And one of the things that I had mentioned, and I said this a long time ago, that the stuff that's redacted, in my opinion, was unfounded or unproven, or things that were speculation that ended up being false. And one of the things that was redacted that was unredacted ended up being the statements that we mentioned earlier, Wong and Justin Smith, which ended up being that unfounded information that wasn't anything. So if that's what that was, I strongly suspect much of what's left here is the same. Unfounded speculation, stuff like that, and personal information.
The stuff that's redacted you're talking about?
Correct. I'm talking about the stuff that's redacted. Now, here's the situation, and this is why I think that, a lot of people don't like this, but the entire investigation was an effort. This investigation, let me highlight this. This investigation was an effort to eliminate her as a suspect causing her children's disappearance and possible murder. And this is talking about Malaya. And then it goes on to say, at this point in the investigation, the disappearance is not believed to be criminal in nature. Now, we have reasonable grounds to believe that its criminal offenses occurred. The polygraph examinations were conducted with the intention of ruling that out as a possibility. So they ruled out, I mean, that was the whole thing, was to rule this out. So if they ruled it out, that she committed a crime here, I mean, what are we saying here?
Does it say that it's ruled out or that they did it to rule it out?
It says they conducted this with the intention of ruling out this as a possibility.
Same thing as ruling it out?
Well, they said that this was the result. Like, it's like saying, you know, my goal is to make a cake, and at the end, I made a cake. It's the worst thing to say.
My intentions was to make a cake, but my cake never rose in the oven. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it says here that the result was that they do not believe that a criminal is in nature and have no reasonable grounds to believe a criminal offense had occurred. So that's the result.
That is a result. That's a result.
And the entire thing was done with the intention of ruling it out as a possibility. So what they're saying is this is why we did this. We did this to answer this question. And this is the answer.
Yeah, that's the answer. As of now, anyways, as of August or October, whenever that came out, August 31st.
And
hey,
so,
I got a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. If I don't ask it now, if somebody wants me to ask it, and if I don't ask you, I'll forget, and I don't want to forget. She wanted to know, do you, about the 2-year-old walking, oh my gosh, hold on. Ask what makes you think, talking about you, that they could walk with the stats. Hold on one second.
No, didn't the mom say that they did?
Like, what makes me think that they can walk that far?
Didn't the mom say that he walked off?
So Jack did walk off when he was younger. He escaped out of Patty's house, walked through a scrap yard, walked through I believe it was like a soccer field or something like that, through a school field, and was about to go into the woods when he was approached by school security or school personnel. And from what I understand is that I don't know if, you know, he had been reported missing or not, or if that's when Malaya found out that he went missing. I know that Daniel, he confirmed this. He said that he was at work at the time. Yeah, he gotten out. But yeah, there's another story of a 2-year-old that's gone 7 miles.
That's what she was asking about. The 2-year, when I thought, because Jack was 2 at the time too. Yeah, the 2-year-old in the Arizona desert. I actually looked that up the other day, actually.
Yeah.
And the dog found him 7 miles away.
5 miles. So the little boy walked about 5 miles. His name was Bowden Allen. He'd wandered off about 5 or so miles, and then a dog named Buford found him and then navigated him back about 1.5 miles or so to the ranch house. And so, 2 years old, 7 miles in one night. And
the elevation there, I mean, is rocks and stuff. My mom lives out there, but elevation there is really high compared to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the other thing too, and I know some people are saying, like, you know, desert isn't the woods. I would say that it'd be a lot harder to survive in the Arizona desert sometimes than a night, you know, where it was 40 degrees.
Yeah.
But I will say this, if you follow the path where the boot prints are and where the blanket is, they're not going through the woods. They're going alongside the trail. And so it's not like they're going through tough terrain. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, they'd have to get through some tough terrain to get back onto a trail, but that's my whole point. Like, they are on a trail, and that is like that trail that they took right there is like dirt and sand and stuff. I mean, you can even see the rivets from the ATVs that have driven through there. But why not see where kids have been walking, where they kick up their boots? And do you see what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I think they got lucky that they found this, to be honest with you. It's not, you know, I've gone on some, when somebody's gone missing before and we've had to go through the woods and things, it's not easy. Things get trampled. them finding this in the middle of the night was impressive. It was probably in a location they saw, all right, hey, look, there's some mud there. Let's go make sure if there's any prints there, because, if they're walking alongside here and they're two little kids and they're in the grass, they're not heavy enough to make a lot of indentions and stuff like that. And so you look where you can, and they got lucky, in my opinion. This wasn't an out of the area. This wasn't somewhere that was well traveled or anything like that. So for somebody to have planted them there, I find that to be almost an impossibility for it to be planted. Could it have been somebody else's? I doubt it, just because of the investigation that they went into it. I mean, we would have to believe that there was two other little kids out there with, as you mentioned, you don't see anything else there. So there's no sign of an adult with them. There's no sign of other searchers with them. So we'd have to believe around the same time that Jack and Lilly went missing, that two other kids who were about the same age, who had the exact same boots that Lilly had, that are still missing, down to the same size, down to the print, which should say something if the number is still on the bottom of the shoe. Yeah, if the number is still on the bottom of the shoe, it means it's a relatively new shoe. It was just bought in March, on March 20th, I believe. And so she'd only had it for 6 weeks. And so you have all these things here, the size coupled with, there was two of them, two kids ones, and RCMP documents even indicated that it was in an out of the way area for it to be other kids. I don't know.
I see what you're saying. I absolutely do. It's logical, right? It's absolutely logical, and it's on the paper. I completely see it. I just feel that they would have spent more time there. And when they brought in their human remains dogs, why did they have them go to the house then if they're so certain that they were there?
Well, they also went there. Why would they go? Why would they go here if they were certain they were at the house? I mean, it could be said back to back. The thing is, you want to do your due diligence at the last places that you knew where the kids were. They knew that the kids were at Daniel's house. They knew that there's the blanket, and they got these boot prints. So you're going to want to go specifically to the last known places for sure, 100%. And you're going to research those places, and you're going to do your due diligence on Daniel. Make sure you don't, do anything that. You're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. Like, for instance, in the Summer Wells case, there's some footprints out there. There was a search that was kind of leading in that direction. Not the one that's most recent, a different one that was kind of out there. Right. And to me, I was like, well, it's kind of, they're doing their due diligence, It wasn't the same thing. It was just TBI, unlike this recent search, which was TBI, FBI, and Hawkins Sheriff County out there. That's a different presence. You know what I'm saying? That's a different investigation. That's a different scenario. And so, to me, you're going to search the last known places for sure, 100%. And you're going to search it over and over again. So the fact that they went onto Daniel's property and searched it over and over again, isn't suspicious. I'm glad they did it so that now we can move on from these theories that people said, well, Janie was doing something in the driveway, so the bodies were somehow buried there or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's weird. What she was doing is weird, man, though. Like, you got to say, that's just weird. I'm sorry. It's just
I don't know. I don't know what she was doing, but
I don't know either, but it's something weird.
No, but I mean, those theories about those type of things can go out the water. You know what I'm saying? It's you go out there.
Nobody's buried there. Yeah, I see.
And you also, because I think if they don't, what do you think the public would have said in that scenario? You're out there, you're searching all these areas. Why didn't you search their house? I mean, I think.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I wish they were able to bring them out on day one. That would have eliminated everything, because then the dogs, I know this for a fact, that the human remains dogs would be able to detect gases and anything else that had recently happened. Now it's been too long. They can only detect bones or something that was on them and was burnt or something,
now the search teams that came in, the cadaver dogs came from 2 different provinces, from what I understand, from different parts of the country. why would they? I mean, they would, to me, for them to come and do the expansive search, even including on the property there, but also in the woods there, to exhaust that amount of resources tells me that that's probably one of the few answers they have left of where they think the kids are.
Somewhere out in the woods.
Yeah, and I think that's, and if that's where they think, that's because, and I'd be a fool to say I know more than them and that I have more evidence.
Oh, no, same.
You know, and so
Yeah,
if they're the ones that are thinking that they're in the woods, I mean, who am I to say that they're something else happened?
I agree. If the RCP think they're in the woods and they're somewhere out in the woods, how did they get there? Like, I mean, we can all speculate, we can all look, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But they're in the woods somewhere. I believe that as well.
What do you think, Dr. Vona? Where are you at on that?
On which part? The whole thing? Like, or just this part?
Well, I mean, you know, just with the fact that RCMP and their statements, do you think that they would come forth and have this open? I mean, even if they were reluctant, they still gave away all their information about the investigation and how, I mean, it perceives that they've cleared him. I assume if Daniel ever got arrested, that his lawyer is going to have a field day with this information. And here's your exculpatory evidence. Here's your reasonable doubt. What do you think about those when you add that into the scenario?
So this is the thing, because it's not here in the States. Like, I know in the States you can lie, or although a lot of times they do lie. Like, they'll say, you know, Jamie, Daniel just told me the truth. Like, you might as well tell us before, you know. So my thing is, do they do that in Canada? And could they be like baiting him because he goes, not baiting him, but like, because he goes on shows, like let him talk to see what he says type thing, because maybe they don't have enough evidence. I don't know how it works there, but if it's in documents and they feel that, like, I feel like every time, or not every time, I don't know about every time, but I like this last time people found like new evidence and stuff, they went out there and they searched. So I feel like they are doing their due diligence. I just don't know. In Canada, can they lie and say, like, or not tell you everything, you know, just so that they're not giving away all of their cards? I don't know. Do you know the answer? Does anybody know?
So
I'm pretty sure yes.
So yeah, they definitely can, but that would be to Daniel. Like, it's one thing to tell Daniel, hey Daniel, we think you're innocent, you know, just keep talking to us, keep talking, you know, we know you didn't do anything. And it's another thing to go out to the public and say this and put this out in documents and in writing. And I believe this is a court document, you know, that was forced by the courts because of the media. And so they can't lie in these scenarios. So what they're saying is true.
As of that date, when they sent out the document.
Yeah.
Right. But what could come out outside of, like, you know, you find the bodies and there's something that's
well, no, yeah, they
suspicious,
won't know anything till
you
they
know,
find the bodies.
What more investigating could somebody do into them? And I mean, I'll ask you guys this. I'll ask you this, Dr. Bono. Daniel Martel, you know, he is not lawyered up. He's done 4 interrogations at minimum as of June. I think he's been talked to a few more times. He did a polygraph test. He did. He gave up his phone, his GPS locations, and his financial records. What kind of experience and information and what kind of abilities must he have to be able to accomplish that and not get caught? Because like Brian Koberger had experience and training and things like that. Is there something we should expect to find in Daniel's background that would make us believe that he could outsmart not just RCMP, but major crimes, and not just in one department or one part of major crimes? It's multiple provinces or multiple. I think it's New Brunswick. It's major crimes from some other part. Yeah, he described it to me. But what does he have to do to be able to outsmart them?
Be a narcissist. Like, this is the thing. Somebody that's narcissistic. This is the thing. To me, it doesn't. He can believe that he's outsmarted everyone and not really have outsmarted everyone. And we saw that in the Brian Koberger case, right? He thought he was smarter than everyone. He was smarter than you and me and everyone else, but he wasn't. So who knows if there's a little bit of that going on here? I don't know. But he could possibly think that he, like, you know, a lot of times we'll see somebody play all their cards like this because they think that like they have nothing, like there's nothing that they can get caught with type thing. So they wind up putting it out there. So that is a possibility. But at the same time, like you're saying, there's so many different law enforcement agencies, and if they're all telling, like they would all have to be in on it as a lie type thing, right? I don't know, but could they just be holding stuff back? I would hope that they would hold a little bit back. No.
Well, they probably would if they had a criminal investigation. They'd be holding a lot back. But my thoughts aren't necessarily on.
That's an important difference.
Yeah,
the fact
yeah.
that it's not a criminal case and that it's a missing persons case.
I agree. I agree. It's huge. And given the amount of information, so to me, it's not so much about Daniel believing he can outsmart all these individuals. It's that if Daniel had some part in this disappearance of these kids, he did it. He outsmarted them. He pulled the rug out of underneath of them. He gave them their phones. He gave them all these things, and he accomplished what Brian Koberger could not accomplish. And my question is, how does a guy in rural North Nova Scotia, Canada, who's not educated, who has had a history of drug problems on his own, maybe perhaps recent, how does he do that?
I think here though, maybe the crime or maybe crimes like loosely, but I think here the thing is that I think he looks like a liar in a lot of things because he is lying, but I think he's probably lying about, like, and again, like you said about the drug use, he does come forward eventually and say it, but I feel like he tries to give that perception. So I think if he is getting caught up in lies, in my opinion, it's probably because he cares about what everybody thinks about him, which I think is clear. Like, he cares. If people are saying bad things about him, he wants to clear his name in that area. And even if that means like making himself look more sober maybe than he was at some point, like maybe he's told you that, but I haven't heard him really telling other people. So when you see other interviews, this is the thing, Daniel, when you see other interviews of him, it's different than when he interviews with you. And I don't know if it's a guy girl thing, like where he just doesn't respect women in the same way he does men. And again, I'm just speculating, but if you look at other interviews, I wonder like if you would pick up on differences, because I feel like you have a way of like holding him accountable that also makes him nervous. So I feel like there's some things that he says in your interview that he says differently in another interview. And I think that those inconsistencies are what's making people like, he could lie about that. What else could he be lying about? And again, whether it's whether it's valid or not is a different story. But I could see like he doesn't do himself any favors by always coming out there and talking.
I'll say this, the difference is that you're listening to a reporter talk to somebody, and somebody who's been trained to investigate crimes and talk to somebody and to get information out of them from a different scenario. And so, you know, my ability to get information out of him, and not just him, you know, a lot of other people, has been because of that, you know. But
I guess what I'm saying is he said things that are different than he said to you. Like, I think you have a way of holding him accountable, but I think in other interviews, maybe somebody, and I don't know because I don't know the interviewers, but maybe they didn't, you know, go that step further. But like, there are inconsistencies between what he says to you and then what he has said to other interviewers. And like little things, they're not even like big things, which are, I think, the reason that he winds up making himself look like so bad in some instances, because it's almost like he can't, I don't know. I do know. You just have to, I'll have to show you some examples. I'll have to send you a few where like you ask him something and he says something to you, but somebody else asks him something and the answer is different.
I know what you're saying.
Right. But there's
yourself when you think.
There's the other thing too is that my interview was unedited and it was straightforward and it was in order. The interviews that he's done and that have been put out there by mainstream media is none of those things. It is edited. It's out of order. And it's in the and it's sometimes, in my opinion, to even point at a narrative, because a lot of it is missing. And so I would caution those to look at those interviews and the interview that I did and see them as the same, because they are not. His is edited with mainstream media. They put it out of order. And I could tell you this because I've been interviewed also by mainstream media, and they are notorious for this, because what they want is the clicks and the views. more than
What
anything
about
else.
other YouTubers?
Oh yeah.
Other YouTubers, I mean, and again, like Daniel saying something or being inconsistent about one thing or another, to me, it's like, all right, what is it? What is the inconsistency? Like, for instance, Michelle After Dark had mentioned in her video that there was inconsistencies, and it was because they said that there was only 20 minutes of time, and that they didn't understand, you know, that was some sort of inconsistency because it could have been an hour. And to me, I'm like, these folks were asleep. They woke up and their kids were missing. He takes off running. By the time he's coming back, law enforcement or cops have already been called. Things are going on. Things are hectic and erratic. There's probably a lot of stress in that situation, a lot of angst. And if he was doing things that were illegal in the house that may be unrelated, let's just say he was, you know, he had, you know, something, I don't know. And then you have that added aspect onto it too. And so I don't think there was, and the reason why I don't think there was anything in the house at the time, because there was that accusation. And from what I understand, this is what Janie told me, was that, and not even Janie, I think somebody else told me too, but that RCMP did go into the house and search. RCMP did go into the bedroom that day, you know, especially when all these allegations were coming out, you know, in the driveway. And so they looked at those things and they didn't find anything. Now, could he discarded it or hid it somewhere where, you know, he's just that good and they couldn't find it? I guess. You know, it's possible that, you know, law enforcement are human beings. They make mistakes too, just like anybody else. But to me, I what are the inconsistencies? If there are things about time.
No, it like things like where he'll say one thing and then I'll have to send you a few of them. If I would have known that I was going to say that, I would have came. But like, there was a couple of them, like in one interview, he said like about the people coming on his property. Like in one interview, he says that like he wants them all there and like all this stuff. And then another interview, he's like talking about like how he didn't want, I don't know. I'm going to have to send them to you. There's like quite a few though that I've seen in the past 24 hours that I've been watching. So I will show you. And again, could it just be that he evolved and maybe found new information and therefore his story changes? Maybe. But I think that it just sounds inconsistent, which then makes him look like he's inconsistent. And again, it doesn't mean that he did anything terrible. I mean, he could just literally be inconsistent because he's afraid of what people might think about him. Because, I mean, let's be honest, if you're doing drugs, it doesn't make you a bad person, right? So, you know, maybe he's thinking like, oh no, what if, you know, people think of me like because I did this or that. So I don't know. Like, so what I'm saying is that I'm not even saying, you know, I just think that maybe, I don't know what the reasons might be, but there are inconsistencies, and I will send you some of them. Like, I'll send you some of them because there was quite a few that I was looking at, but they're little things, and I think that that's the where did he go?
I agree with you 1,000% ironclad.
I have a million.
If you have any, then let me know because I do want to send them because
I will. I promise. I have them. I was trying to get in, but it keeps rubber banding on us.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just that. Again, that I don't see. This is the thing. If Daniel, and I don't know this to be true, but he says that he's neurodivergent. So if he's neurodivergent, some of his mannerisms would make sense, but they also make sense with someone that's like narcissistic. So, and I just don't know. Well, you could be both too, right? You could be narcissistic and neurodivergent too. So
I have no idea what neurodivergent is.
Oh, neurodivergent is like ADHD. I'm neurodivergent. ADHD all the way. But like ADHD, autism, you know. So, and he says that he has ADHD. So somebody with ADHD, we don't like they don't like being criticized or judged. So there's like a hyper, there's like this hyper feeling you don't want to be criticized and you want people to like you, even though you know logically that that's just not, you know, that's just not possible for everyone to like you. But you still, you have that need, and it's part of like ADHD. So that's what I'm saying. So part of like the things that I see Daniel do could be ADHD related, but there's other things that could very well be narcissist related. And either one doesn't say that he did anything terrible, but either one doesn't say that he didn't either. So I just think that we need to keep the possibility open that he didn't do something, or the possibility open that maybe he's like telling stories about, I mean, even if it was about a relationship, I just think like, if I tell you that the sky's blue and you go outside and it's red,
Yeah.
you're going to think like, well, what else? Like, and again, not even that I'm lying. Like, why does she perceive the sky as blue and I perceive it as red? So it's like, but
Everybody's
you would be
different.
hyper aware of that after that, right? So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that that's what I'm saying.
No, I agree
Yeah.
with you. No, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, we all see things differently.
And this is the thing, people in chat, this is what I would say. So a lot of people think that look, you're very passionate about your opinion, and I think that the passion is what's probably going to solve this case, right? Because if people didn't care and if people weren't passionate, then this case would have already been, you know, it would have been done. Nobody would have.
Absolutely.
So I think it's all of our passion, but I think we
Mhm.
all need to stay focused on the fact that we're all here, no matter what anybody believes or what evidence people have taken in that makes them believe one thing or the other. The point is that we're all here for the same cause, and that's to find the kids. So, and I think that we all have the same common goal, and as long as we could stay focused on that same common goal, that I think together we'll do better than people going after each other. Because again, I don't think that anyone in the chat is necessarily a bad person or lying or whatever. I just think that everybody has their own positions based on the evidence that they've seen at this point. And I think that it's okay that people think different. I think that it's in this world, I mean, you're in a world where it could be anything, just be yourself, right? So if yourself means that you feel one way, then I respect that. If it means you feel another way, I respect that too. I always say my best and worst quality is that I play devil's advocate. So, I mean, sometimes people just want me to be like, oh, that, like my husband sometimes just wants me like curse off the person that just cut him off. And I'm like, that's just not who I am. So the one day I did it and he was like, that's not you. And I just did it like to him. So, but the point is that that's not me, right? Sometimes we see ourselves in other people, and that's when our feelings get hurt. So I think we have to remember that we're not other people, and that we have to respect other people for their own opinions just as much as we want them to respect our opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Would you add anything to that?
All I want to say is we are all here for one thing. And if you are not here for one thing, then I think that you have something to do with it. Right?
Well, yeah, well, something to do with the fact of at least the drama part of it. Nobody wants, I mean, I know that I don't want to be associated with any drama behind this. And this is the thing, people are saying like, maybe I don't know enough about the case and stuff. So if there's anything that people want me to see or read or something, let me know. My email is jamievona@gmail.com. So like, let me know. I'll look at it. I mean, I'm not trying to be ignorant to stuff. I do want to see this stuff, but from what I see now, that's the only way I can make my opinion now.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I have like everything. I can send it to you.
Oh, please do. And I think that there's a case for everyone's opinion, right? Because like I said, if we all just agreed, then the case would go cold because everybody agrees. So I think it's the fact that we all have passion, that we all have the same common goals to find Jack and Lilly, and that's what everybody needs to stay focused on.
Absolutely.
Hi. Stop talking about the Steelers. They don't suck.
Welcome back.
No, it's my internet extender. I think it's going out. I just unplugged it and the internet's working better without it. But yeah, no, I caught the last bit of what you were saying there, Dr. Bona.
Yeah.
You know, I agree that, you know, not being closed-minded, not getting stuck in an echo chamber is important, you know, but I also kind of tend to believe that, you know, if law enforcement has disclosed some information and put some things out there, it's pretty conspiratorial to kind of go against it and to put out false narratives that law enforcement have already kind of precluded that aren't there. And
yeah,
so I think that's dangerous.
Yeah, but if law enforcement finds new evidence tomorrow, I would hope that they would look down that avenue no matter what it would be. And so that's what we're saying. So that's what I was saying when you went out, is that as of right now, we have to believe what we believe based off the evidence. But I mean, could tomorrow they find, you know, a new clue somewhere and it leads them somewhere, you know, anywhere? I mean, they would have to look into that. So I'm saying the same thing you are, I think.
Yeah, I agree. To me, I think that if there was something that came out that was directed towards something that, or somebody that law enforcement is already aware of, whether that's Daniel, Malaya, Cindy, Malaya's family, Daniel's family, some other people that they're aware of, there should be some evidence with what cooperation that they have now that that should lead them to at least suspect a certain thing in a certain area. And like I said, the information that they've put out there, if they ever arrested him, I mean, it'd be very difficult to get a conviction based on everything. He passed the lie detector test, which I know a lot of people say they're not, used in court, but that's only to protect the state. That's to protect the defendant, not to protect the state. And so I guarantee you a defense attorney is going to bring that up. All the other evidence that they have that they've put out there that points towards him being innocent is going to be utilized. And, I don't think law enforcement would make that risk to put this information out there like this if they believed in any scope that there was a possibility that something could be found that would change, I guess, their opinion.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I just,
but there was new evidence a few weeks ago, and they still, didn't they still go out and investigate it?
of course, you're going to investigate every lead.
That's all I'm saying is that that's what I'm saying. So we can only speculate so much until there's any new evidence pointing anywhere, whether they're in the woods, whether no matter where they are. But until we find evidence that this or the other, I would hope that if they found new evidence of anything that they would still investigate it, like you just said.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are investigating if they find new evidence. I think it's just like the cameras, there's nothing, they just, there's nothing there. They can't find them. It's sad. The whole thing is just sad. It really is.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Sonny, I see you and you're saying that I'm making false statements. It isn't me that's making false statements about Brad and them. I mean, if you want to believe somebody who's, we can go down his past, but I think I put it out there that it was the RCMP who disputed it, Sonny. RCMP came forward and said that this wasn't the case. In fact, you yourself, Sonny, I can bring the screenshot back up, said that when you're talking to Wong, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. Those were your words, not mine. You were the one that questioned his intelligence, not me, Sonny. And so why he chooses to still talk to you after you called him stupid is beyond me. But I do have that still. But regardless, it's not me that's saying that's disputing what Brad and Justin Smith are saying. It was RCMP that disputed it. RCMP came forward and said, this is not true. Now, I'm not saying that Brad is lying. I'm saying he may be inaccurate. Maybe he remembers something differently or whatever the case may be. But RCMP came forward and said that they disputed it, not me. So your anger and your upsetness because of whatever reason, maybe you're not getting the views you used to. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. RCMP is the one that put that out there. RCMP is the one that said that they investigated Daniel and they found no evidence of criminal offense. It's not me. I'm not a detective on this case. I'm not investigating it. I'm not trying to solve it. I'm just a commentary. And I'm commentating on the evidence and I'm commentating on the information that's out there and putting it out there as accurately as possible. And so it's not my narrative. It's the RCMP's narrative. And if you have a problem with the RCMP, then get on your high horse and make a video and say, hey, the RCMP is wrong. But don't come at me because it's not me that's saying it. That's the RCMP. So direct your negative and your hatred to that direction, please. All right. So with that being said, guys, on Wednesday, I'm having Nick from Please Bring Me Home. He kind of orchestrated the search. We're going to talk about the search with Jack and Lilly. I also have another searcher who is out there who's going to come on the channel and talk about their experience with the search as well. I have people that are coming on this channel of that are very close to this, people that have, you know, been in the search, people that have done these other things. And it's not because I'm wrong. I'm sorry. You know, if that was the case and I was being if I was a conspiracy theorist here saying that law enforcement is wrong, they got it wrong, I got it right, I see these red flags, I know more than law enforcement, Daniel did something, he's this big bad wolf, you know, I don't think that all these people would be coming to me to then come on the show to explain the truth and the facts, because that's what we're doing here. And if you can't handle the truth and the facts, I'm sorry, you're just in the wrong spot. You're in the wrong place. There's other, you know, there's psychics and other things you can go watch, and they'll help you fill your entertainment value. Guys, what do you guys got left this week?
I can't hear anything.
Yeah, Dr. Owen, you're muted, I think.
Oh. Shh, stop.
Oh, she froze. There she is. Mike's going.
I think it's my camera. I don't know, or my mic. But anyway, I don't have anything specifically planned at this moment, but I will probably be back on Monday evening. I just don't know which case I'll be going over yet. I've been looking into the Chris Watts. I've been doing that because I've been talking about like familicide and stuff like that. So people should look. And I've also been talking about factitious disorder imposed on another person, but nobody come for me because I'm not saying that Shanann Watts, you know, deserved anything. I just think that there's video that we can see human behavior. So maybe Monday night I'll be going into the Watts case.
Good deal. Good deal. I'll be there. Oh, wait, you know what? I'm not. Monday night, the Steelers are playing.
Yeah.
I'll be going for football. Daphne, what do you got going on this week? And guys, check out their YouTube channels. Links are in the description. Daphne, what do you got going on?
Thank you. Yes, I'm probably going to do some Summer Wells, maybe some Sebastian. I've been doing this. Justin started this Brianna Aguilera. She's not missing, but I don't know if you heard about it.
Yeah, it's up in my backyard.
Yeah, that's why I was really sad.
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking to a family member of hers, or family friend, and kind of wanted to go over some things.
That's the cheerleader, right? That passed away from jumping, or allegedly jumped. There's a lot of controversy there.
There is a lot, yeah.
I haven't looked into it, so I don't have an opinion one way or the other. You know, I know that I live local. It's, you know, I live in San Antonio, Texas, so it's right up the street.
Okay.
And I know that Austin PD came out. I think it was Austin PD came out, and or whoever the local law enforcement was came out and had a press conference. So, but that's about the extent of my information on that one. Don't know anything about it, but I'm intrigued. I might check that out.
It's different. It's definitely different. There's a 2-minute window where she uses her friend's phone, some fighting going on, guy involved, and then girl had everything going for her. But then you hear other things too from a family friend that there was a CPS involved, like before, and just other things. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Sad case. Yeah. Another sad one. Yeah.
Well, guys, it was a pleasure talking to you guys. I know there was some heated moments with me in the live chat. I apologize for that. This is one of the things I was trying to avoid. That's why I kind of said that earlier, that the live might get, the chat might get a little crazy. But I think we put out some pretty good information and some pretty good insight. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I hope we can do it again.
Thank you.
You guys have a great night.
Thank you as well.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Everybody, please hit the like button, subscribe, go follow these guys.
Thank
Let's get them up higher. Let's get some subscribers going that way. Great conversation. Yes.
Thank
you guys have a great night. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
Thank you. Have a good night.